observer, I always call myself that. And I am, as of March, the director of the AC Bilbrew Writers Workshop. Now you ask, what is a Writers Workshop? It's a group of talented individuals right behind me who have written an anthology or been part of the anthology that we'll get into before we have our discussion about artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about that, the influence of artificial intelligence later in our discussion, and how it affects us as writers today. Okay? Let me introduce the panel to you. I would like to introduce Pat Forte. She is an author, screenwriter, voice-over talent, and a drama instructor. She has been a member of SAG-AFTRA and for over 30 years. She is currently working on negotiations with her screenplay, The 50 and Over Club. Wow. Even has a website, 50andoverclub.com. After today, you may want to check it out. Support Pat. As a member of the workshop, she has completed a joint project, an anthology entitled Looking Back. And when we talk to Pat later, we'll find out more about that. And also, I'd like to introduce Ron Dowell. Ron, I've known for many years, but he holds 2 master's degrees from Cal State Long Beach. In 2017, he received the UCLA certification in fiction writing. His short stories appeared in Oyster River, Pages, and Writers Resist. His poetry resides in Troublemaker Firestarter and The Opiate. He is a 2018 PEN America Emerging Voices Fellow. He is also the author of Watts Uprise, that'll be in the back, a poetry collection released by World Stage Press in 2022. The collaboration honors its most notable landmark, which is the Watts Towers, and its creator, Sabato Rodeo, I hope I said it name right. On Labor Day, Running Wild Press will release a short story collection, Crooked Out of Compton. I can't wait to hear more about that. All right, I'd like to introduce Rona, or we know her as Rona Cook White. Rona White. She is a mother, wife, daughter, sister, friend, author, entrepreneur, and encourager. She likes to think of herself as a love caster. Prior to being diagnosed with lung cancer, she worked in human resources management as an educator at a local business college and enjoyed a journey halfway through a PhD program in organizational physiology. As her health challenges grew, her inner warrior emerged. Today, she advocates for greater awareness and increased funding to aid in new therapies for lung cancer and having lung health. This is an example of a glass full perspective and how she finds the good in just about any situation that she wears her optimism well. A scripture she lives by is Proverbs 11:27. If you search for good, you will find favor. But if you search for evil, it will find you. Her philosophy is, quote, my daughter keeps me young at heart. My husband keeps me protected and warm at night. My mother keeps me humble. And my sister keeps me real. Together with all my friends and family, I stay laughing. But most of all, I'm loved and I love to love. Another scripture she lives by is Proverbs 17:22. Being cheerful keeps you happy, keeps you healthy. G&T, or, quote, another cheerful heart is good medicine, end quote. NIV. Her mantra, I will love, live, and laugh, sharing the blessings bestowed upon me as I fulfill each day's purpose and songs. So that is wrong. I would like to also introduce to you the Hawkins. Here we go. Ms. Zola Sanina Hawkins, or we like to call her affectionately Zola. She is a graduate from Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, with a bachelor's arts degree in sociology major and a physiology minor. She was a legal secretary from 1979 to 2017. Working in the complex field, she provided the foundation for her organized and creative skills she now uses in creative writing. She worked for private attorneys that specialize in family law, bankruptcy, probate, conservatorships, personal injury, and criminal cases. She assisted with the research and writing of her trial briefs and organized evidence for trials. She assisted attorneys in the courtroom with files and evidence during trials. Working from 1999 to 2017 at the Department of Justice, she was the main secretary working on international child abduction cases under Deputy Attorney General Elaine F. Tumans. She worked in high-profile cases like Joseph Henry Hunt, born Joseph Henry Gamsky. The Hunt case inspired the 1980 movie, Billionaire Boys Club, which depicted a group of wealthy boys in LA, establishing a, quote, get-rich scheme, end quote, that turned deadly. She was also one of the secretaries that worked on the Stanley Tookie Williams case, Tookie Williams III. In the 1970s, Mr. Williams and Raymond Washington established the Crips here in LA. This was one of the first African-American street gangs, as we all know. Consequently, coming from such a background has been instrumental for her stories, photography, illustrations, and working with the esteemed Odie Hawkins in his various genres. Zola is a certified Tai Chi instructor who is versed in the Dowell Tai Chi sword, Tai Chi fan, and Shaolin cane. She is very talented. Just like her husband, the legend himself, Mr. Odie Hawkins, sitting right by her. He has been given the title, the Underground Master, by a loyal constituency who have followed his career throughout his 32 novels, short story collections, essays, television scripts, radio and film scripts. He takes pride in being the originator of the Pan-African occult game, as exemplified by The Snake 2020, Shackles Across Time, and The Snake Doctor. He was one of the original members of the famed Watts Writers Workshop, established by Bud Schoenberg. In the wake of the Watts Rebellion in 1965 and the Open Door program created by the Writers Guild of America, West, Incorporated, Louise Merriweather, John W. Block, Al Jenner, Robert Letwin, and Harlan Ellison and Bud Schoenberg were the instructors. Ghetto Sketches, his first published novel, was on the required reading May 2010. Professor Justin Gifford, University of Nevada, Reno, Department of English. He is currently a member of two unions, the Writers Guild of America and the Authors Guild. In 2011, he was one of the panelists with Wanda Coleman, Henry Holmes, the late great Dowell, Ronald Jefferson, and Professor Justin Gifford at the Modern Language Association Conference at the Hilton LA Live. In 2016, he was a participant in the Cal State Dominguez Cal State Dominguez event celebrating the 50th anniversary of the rebellion. That is labeled as a riot. We all know it was a rebellion.
That's right.
Mr. Hawkins has agreed to let this university achieve his archives work, Mr. Chris Rubio is currently working with Princeton University to archive Mr. Hawkins' work from the Holloway House Publishing Company, Incorporated. Odie has also published books of social science fiction, Lady Bliss with co-author Ralph Vernon. He the author of the second science fiction novel, Mr. Bonobo Bliss, a.k.a. Bo. His latest novel is Quatroon, Balls, and Bright Moments, was dropped February of this year and can be purchased on Amazon and other internet platforms. He is trained in various martial arts, including capoeira, thank you, and is certainly a certified Tai Chi instructor. And as for myself, briefly, I'm just an author who's taught various workshops here at AC Bilbrew for 13 years. Glad to be back with these fine folks, being a director. And without that, I would like to get started with the anthology that you stories.
Okay.
I would like to talk about that. So I have 3 questions I'm going to ask you, and that, that'll be long, just enough time for our main discussion about artificial intelligence. But this is a way to introduce each one of you to you, but outside the bio. So I'll start with you, Pat. Okay, this is a challenge to the writing community, the rise of artificial intelligence, all this, right? This is the way about the anthology. So what was your anthology in the AC Bilbrew Writers Workshop? What was it?
The name of my chapter?
The name of your chapter.
Oh, my chapter was called Looking Back.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so what was your reason why you wrote this?
Well, I wanted people to know what it was like to be black in 1940 in California, Texas and California, what life was like in 1940, 45.
Right, okay.
That was the reason.
And what do you think that readers will gain from the experience?
Well, I think that readers will understand your childhood determines who you are. How you were raised determines how you see the world. And so I wanted people to understand that when they see a person of a different age or a different ethnic background, to understand it's because of their background is why they're like they are, and to understand it. And so I thought I would share my background so you'll understand where I'm coming from at my age.
And what was your feeling? What did you gain from this?
Well, I gained that you can't judge people by your perspective. You have to get to know the person. And to know the person, you'll see where they're coming from, their values on life.
Good.
Yes.
So, Ron, what is the name of your anthology, your favorite piece of the anthology?
It's called Watts Raised.
Okay. So, same questions I would ask to Pat is that, what was your reason for writing this?
They twisted my arm.
Okay.
If it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have written this because I was in the mode of writing poetry and fiction at the time. So I was glad I did it because it's now going to be the start of a memoir.
Okay. What do you think that the reader will gain from this?
Well, it's like Pat said, I cover a lot of more territory, basically the 50s, 60s, and all the way to the present in this particular writing that I'm going to expand. So, a lot of my upbringing and the places where I lived are being or have been erased.
Yes.
And this is my way of making sure that we don't disappear altogether. And because I feel that unless we write the narrative will not be told or it will be screwed up.
Okay.
That's my motivation.
That's good. So what did you get out of this?
Well, it made me reflect on a lot of stuff I have repressed. Really, and it brought up a lot of emotions and feelings that I just pushed back. But I think for the reader, like she said, where we were raised, how we were raised, affects who we are. And that's important to understand, right? And so my contribution is that for those who don't know, you read this, you will know.
Yeah.
Really, and you'll see some similarities even for what happened in my period that are still happening right now.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, Ron. So, Rona, what's the name of your piece in the anthology?
So let me tell you, this is why it's so important because I couldn't remember the name of my title. So I'm over here really quickly going back through the technology, but the name of my title was It Runs in the Family.
Okay.
And I changed that title so many times, that's why I couldn't remember. And we wrote the book, we wrote our stories years ago, but the self-publishing portion of it is what took a lot of time. So there was a lot of stuff that I forgot, like the title.
Okay. So what would the reader gain from reading your piece?
So empathy for others, because my piece, it speaks about a time in my childhood that led us to Alateen, which is the 12-step program for teenagers. And there was a lot of addiction in our family, but there's always a backstory to it. And so when we see people acting in different ways, or they upset us or whatever, if we can just have a little empathy and just be forgiving, be a little more tolerant of each other, but sometimes we do have to separate ourselves, but we can do it in a loving way so that
What did you get out of this?
So, giving myself grace, because we can be our own worst enemy with the words that we speak and the voices in our head. And so, regardless of how much I've flopped, regardless of how much I failed, felt like an idiot, I mean, these words sometimes I would just beat myself up with, and I just learned to give myself grace. And it's okay that we screwed up today, we as in me. It's okay, but we gotta keep moving on.
Good. Thank you so much. Hello, Zola. So, what is the name of your piece in the anthology?
My place, my piece is called Imprinting My Soul. I stand out because I've been imprinted by the fact that I'm a little short. Okay? 4 feet 9 and a quarter. And so and that's the name of my piece.
Okay. So, what would the reader get out of this?
Okay, I would hope that it wouldn't have to be a medical emergency or trauma in your life for you to take time to examine your life. Who are you today? What brought you to be who you are today? Do I need to have a fork to eat? Can I eat with my hands? Okay? All this imprinting that you get as a child, and sometimes people don't know that they're imprinting you or scaring you, like they walk in the room and it's like, oh, that's the person who beats me up every time they show up, okay? So anytime you see a person that's this tall, this big, it's like they beat you up, okay? And so that's important that you realize why sometimes you're afraid of situations because you were imprinted small.
Okay. And what did you get out of this?
I got out of this that I'm okay. Okay, I'm not perfect. I don't have any holes in my hands. I don't have any corners in my skin. Okay, so I'm okay. And that I'm on the journey to be more perfect and better in life. And that I hope that in my journey that I can encourage others to just take time to be yourself and love yourself. And that's important.
Good. So now we head to Mr. Underground Master himself. Oh, what is the name of your piece in the anthology?
I can tell you about it all by holding up this book. And the lady's name is Dr. Margaret Burroughs, and she's responsible for me being here. She was my high school teacher, and at the age of 15, I was on my way to the penitentiary because I was doing all of the things at the time that would eventually lead to that. She grabbed me by the collar and said, you don't have to go to jail. You could become a writer. It would never occur to me. Up to that time, I was just simply a superb liar. And that's what most of the fiction writers are, superb liars. She opened doors for me. The name of the piece I'm calling is My Savior, Dr. Margaret Burroughs. I was 15, like I said, and I had no real ambition other than to make money. She made me a professional writer, and I'll let you look at the way the story was formed within the anthology. I started out being a professional writer by writing love letters, love notes for people in my high school class who couldn't write. At the time, it was a much more romantic time, and if you wanted to hit on a young lady, you had to write her a note. And some people in my, that's the way it was then. Okay. I started off small. I would write an ordinary for $1, an extraordinary for $2, an exotic for $3, and an outrageous for $4. With all due respect, there are no kids in the house. If you wanted to get the panties, come to Odie in order to get the note that you need. I see you laughing. If you wanted to get it, you came to Odie for the note that you need. I was guaranteed if it didn't happen, I'd give you your money back. When Dr. Burroughs caught me writing an outrageous, she said, okay, take all of the dirty words out and it would be a nice piece of writing. So it stemmed from that day to this, and I'm forever grateful to her.
Okay. I think you answered all 3 of my questions. Good job, bro. That's why you're the master.
I thought I covered a lot of ground right there.
You did. So everyone's stories is an example why AI can never copy the experiences that they went through or they shared in their lives. And this is what our discussion is going to be about today, about the influence of AI in our writing community and how it affects each one of us. So the first question, now we're going to the general question, and to our Facebook Live family, thank you so much for joining us. We want to make sure that everyone understands that AI is the big thing now. Artificial intelligence is affecting our writing community. So what I'd like to ask is the first question. Anyone can then jump in the question I'm about to ask. Is that what are your thoughts on artificial intelligence entering our space?
Well,
go ahead, Dad.
I got this from Dowell. It's been around a long time, since 1950. Who knew? Ron uses it, and I use it for Grammarly, spell check, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it was Alexa and Siri.
Yeah.
That's just artificial intelligence. Who knew?
Yeah.
And so, but I think as a writer, I know it helps us with our tone, with our sentence structure, maybe our outlining, but in the back of my, I'm for it, but in the back of my mind it's always, it's making us lazy. It's making our muscle less strong, I think, as writers, but maybe not. But maybe I'm not looking at it in the right perspective. I'm not sure. And artificial intelligence. I know it, and it answers you really quick. I know it goes on patterns and stuff, and AI will tell you, I think they said it here, AI likes to do, AI does not have a conscience, nor does it have any self-awareness. We process information and generate responses without experiencing thoughts, emotions, or sense of self, but our thoughts are based on pattern recognition and statistical associations learned from data. They can answer so quickly. If you ever used it on the computer, they get back to you so fast with the answer. I'm going to stop pretty soon, but I called up AI and said, can you help me? I'm trying to get I'm trying to negotiate, and I need a film agent. Instantly, they said, write this letter out and say it this way and do it this way, and let us know how it goes. I mean, it was so fast. So I'm just saying, I don't know where it's going. I think the jury's out over here.
Okay.
But it's very helpful. But I don't know if it's going to bite us in the end.
Yeah, it's
Don't know.
it's controversial for a reason because it's
And they're unpredictable.
Yeah. Anyone else in the panel have a thought about AI invading our space?
I'd like to say, first off, I'm not anti-AI. I have at least 4 books that have a character in the book who uses AI to do what she has to do. The thing that I'm looking at as a member of the Writers Guild, of the Screenwriters Guild, and the Authors Guild, as you know, this past year we had a strike, and one of the major reasons why for the strike was the use of AI-generated characters and AI-generated scripts. If you write for a living and you depend on AI, you can't register what AI has helped you do. So that short-circuits the writer. In addition to that, it creates lazy writers. I hate to put it like that, but if you can come up with, okay, here's the story. This black guy is married to this white woman, and his friend tells him that his old lady is cheating on him. And the brother winds up killing the woman. He's strangling her. The story is pitched to a producer who says, okay, I like that, get out of here. For those who've been paying attention, you know that's the central part of Shakespeare's Othello. The only thing the producer has to do is feed this particular bare outline into the technology, and it will regurgitate within a couple of minutes a full script with all the elements in it, plus everything else he needs to make the money that he wants to make. The biggest complaint I have against it, I think, is that it might create a sense of cultural suicide, or maybe cultural oppression for those of us who want to write from our own particular cultural bottoms. If you are
give you an example, I have a character named Rufus. Rufus says what it is, what it is. The technology says to me, no, that's incorrect grammar. It has to be, what is it? So no, I'm saying, he doesn't say what is it. He says what it is, and what it is indicates much. It's the time of day, how's the drugs out there, you know, where can I get hold of something, and so forth. It's what it is. Okay, if you get into the nuances that come out of our Mississippi grandmothers and our Arkansas grandfathers, that would be squashed because artificial intelligence does not recognize that particular area in your folk life. As most of you are aware right now, African American history is being bleached. We're being asked to disregard the fact that we were brought here. We're being asked to disregard who we are. They're saying to you that you don't have a history. So if you are using AI to help you write your creative material, I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing to use for fact checking of certain type, or that it should be the wrong thing to do if you want to write a quick outline. But if you're writing books in the way we are, and you get artificial, I want to say artificial insemination help, then you might wind up suffering from not being able to say what you want to say. Dowell writes in a certain kind of way that has nuances and tonalities in it that I do not think AI will be able to capture. There's certain tonal, I say to somebody, hey, motherfucker, what's happening? That's my friend. When I was growing up, we used to call across the street at each other the most obscene things you ever heard of. Somebody shakes their head and says, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Well, those people were born, they came up through a certain kind of prism, and they reflect everything that has ever happened to them in their lives. AI cannot capture the nuances of all of that, and it's one of the reasons why the writers went on strike this past year.
Yeah, that was, let me read something from CNBC to what Odie was saying. This is, I think, an agreement from the Writers Guild of America. The Writers Guild Agreement, WGA agreement, established that AI cannot be used to undermine a writer's credit or used as a means to reduce a writer's compensation. The contract does, however, leave room for studios to train AI using pre-existing material in the WGA's original May proposal, which triggered the strike that he's talking about, which would have disallowed studios from using materials to train AI outright. So, Odie, what you're saying is that past material, like back in the 1970s, Iceberg Slim and all the rest, that would be totally erased by AI. Is that correct?
As far as I can tell, right at this point, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else, Ron?
Yeah, or you could co-opt it. Let me make sure we all talking about the same thing. And I'm gonna read what the definition of artificial intelligence is. The ability of a computer or other machine to perform actions thought to require intelligence. Among these actions are logical deduction and inference, creativity, the ability to make decisions based on past experience or insufficient conflicting information, and the ability to understand spoken language. Right there tells you a lot of, particularly this part about creativity. But what my experience has been with AI, and I do use it, it's like, it cannot, like Odie mentioned, pick up the nuances. I could write about Jordan Downs, and I do write a lot. And I've already plugged that into AI. And there's very little in AI about Jordan Downs or Palm Lane Public Housing. So what AI does, since it's looking to be more intelligent, it looks around for everything. So I already know that if I start to see a lot of stuff about Jordan Downs and Palm Lane, that's because of the stuff I put in there, right? And like he's saying, the problem with that is that if somebody takes that and don't even compensate or even give a person credit for it, they'll create something entirely different and without any credit, right? And so that's one of the problems, and I think that's probably what led to the strike too. But so in terms of creativity, there's a lot of limitations to what it will do. Really, I've asked it to do some illustrations for me, and you know, to me, it's not the best illustration. It doesn't ever replace a human artist. But for what my purpose is satisfactory. it doesn't have what this other word is sentient, which means our ability to feel, right? To see and to process things only a human can do. If you think about RoboCop, if you've seen that movie, that what they tried to do there was integrate a human being with a robot. But the part about the human being is what gives that person, that thing, feelings and the human perception. And he has a mechanical body. But they realized that there's no way you can use a machine to replace the little nuances that we think about and feel. For example, I write about being a 5-year-old extending a dark stare in the projects and felt the chills and all the things that I went through. Now, AI could probably come reasonably close to that, but I don't think at this point it can be to replace that human experience. So it has a lot of limitations, but it can be very useful.
Okay, anyone else has a thought as we sit here?
Just one thought on AI, that I think it was the Japanese created the first robotic woman. And she suddenly wanted to know if she could have a baby. And the scientists were like, wait. We didn't program you to want a baby, okay? And so they're saying they have to re-examine her programming because this was not part of the programming. And 60 Minutes had a thing on AI, and some of the scientists who created AI said, we don't know quite what we created. Okay, we got a problem here. So they let the genie out of the box, and heaven help us. We're in front of us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anybody want to say anything else?
I'll just add that next to Japan and India, they already have a newscaster, AI newscaster. So we're at a point where AI is here. The fear is AI taking over, and we're trying to figure it out. And so we have to be mindful of it across genres, because you can look at the newscaster and say, okay, but that's not us writers. We can look at the audiobooks. They're taking over with the audiobooks. They're no longer using the author's voices. So it's just a matter of time before it actually, they're writing all the books for us. And like everyone is saying here, the content, we don't want to lose our culture. We see it happen in so many times, in so many ways over decades. You look at hip hop and how that was the Black community. But now when you say hip hop, it's not necessarily Black, because it's been, everyone has absorbed it and they've taken it and changed it in different ways. You know, it's still us. And so when we look at our writing, it's the same concept. We want to make sure that our voices are heard and that AI is not doing everything for us. And if we start off by being lazy and allowing AI to do the writing, then that's what's going to happen eventually, and that speaks to the genocide that Odie was mentioning.
Good point. Yeah.
I was gonna say, has anybody in the audience used AI? These students, okay. Oh, would anybody like to, before you guys comment, this young man from Long Beach State told me that he was really doing poorly in school, but he went to AI and he started doing his essays using AI.
Yeah.
And then he said, all you gotta do, Pat, is just change a little few of the words, and then it's your document. And so he said his grades have really gone up. So, young lady right here in the front row, tell me about your AI experience.
I've just been using it for writing.
Look louder.
I've been using it for writing here and there, like to reword things.
So, do you give it, you use it for essays?
Creative writing. Creative writing.
Creative writing.
Like if I don't like a certain
Certain word.
for more suggestions. Like if I want to convey like anger, like there's different ways to show like subtle anger, like their eyes, their mouth, their hands.
Body language, whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. Just small things like that.
So do you give credit to AI? Everybody's not giving credit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody else said they used AI. The young lady in the back.
So my daughter is actually applying for college scholarships. There's an app called MOS, and it'll tell you like, oh, we'll help you write your essay. You just have to give us like certain information. It pumped out an essay, like a 1,000-word
know,
and plugged in, and it sounded like her.
I know.
But I was like, I mean, when you're doing all these scholarships for money,
So I don't know where the line ends, I don't know where the line is, guys. Because, I don't know. And even as a writer, do you give credit? They said, one writer was, they needed certain dialogue for this certain character, this villainous character. And the AI just shouted out right quick, he said, perfect! So do you give AI credit?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Don't know.
I'm
well,
gonna
because is it considered plagiarism?
I know,
Exactly.
I know.
Well, I submit a lot of stuff for publication, and one of the things they're saying now, if you've got any association with AI, we likely will not accept it, and we want you to tell us. Now, I've
That's
asked,
the honor system. That's the honor system.
well, absolutely, I've asked it to create a poem, and it did create a poem. Only thing I noticed about AI, it knows the rules, right? So that's where it leaves out the nuances. If you leave out something about sensory perception or something, it'll tell you that, right? But if it's creating a poem, it may not necessarily do that. So I don't use it to create, I will use it to critique. For example, in our workshops, that's what we do. We read each other's writing and we give each other feedback. Now, in the absence of that, I use this thing to critique. And it will do that. It will tell you, but based on the basic rules of poetry, that's all it could do, what you're maybe leaving out. And so it's up to me to put it in. But it's my voice, and it stays my voice. It may make some suggestions about syntax. The syntax for me is a problem. Honestly, I went to inferior ass schools, and I never did. English was not my strength. So what it will do is suggest a way to reorganize or rearrange the words on the line. It takes my words and rearranges them so that it even makes more sense. Now it's up to me to decide whether or not I want to use that, but for the most part, many times I do because it makes more sense. And I want who's ever reading it to understand that. And that's a limitation based on my limitation having gone to Compton Public Schools, LA Unified, who didn't teach the stuff I needed to know. So what am I going to do?
Okay, that's very good. So the two things that have popped up since our discussion started. One is that AI will make the writer or aspiring writer, author lazy. And two is a cultural appropriation on the part of AI, right? You get the sense of that. I want to get back to the lazy part because, you know, being part of an author or writer is that you do a lot of research into your topic, unless you've actually been there and you want to share some experience about it. But the question I have for the panel is that, do you see that the research part of it is taken away from writers because you have AI, why do research? Why be a great author or writer that you want to be by just going to AI and doing the research, right? Like Odie has a lot of experience, he can share his experience, but he relies on AI, it's like, why do I need to go talk about my experience for? So let me ask that question. Do you think that because of AI, where it is now with us as authors and writers, do you think they would take away the research part of it? You know?
Well, AI does the research so quickly.
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
Something's already done.
So to make us more lazy,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Why go to the library?
Good
Why
take.
go to the library?
Right.
Close all the libraries down and just use AI.
I suggested earlier.
Bad idea, I know.
It might make us lazier because, you know, I don't know if people know this as a matter of course, but writing is very hard. It's very hard work, which means a lot of people are not inclined to go into a room by themselves and spend 2 or 3 weeks or maybe 6 or 7 months or maybe even years. So you try to get help from any source you can find. And if the source comes to you in 30 seconds, if it comes to you in 30 seconds by way of artificial intelligence, you'll accept it. And that's the end of it.
Okay. Good.
You know,
Good.
I mean, I think in some ways it prevents you from going deeper than you would if you had been forced to actually have that experience. You know, I was in Nepal. I I was in Nepal 3 months ago, climbing up Mount Everest, and I was talking to one of the Sherpa guides, the people who carry the stuff on their backs. And I could write about that because I had that experience. I have never been to Nepal. I'm talking to you like AI now. If I can convince you in just that casual sentence that I was there, think about what that technology can do to you by not even being close to that. So I think it becomes almost too trusting. You know, if you've ever run over or almost run over people walking across the streets with their AI gadgets in their hands, who become addicted. I know some people in here right now who are anxious to talk on their phones. You got about a 3-minute, 5-minute period of time before you begin to feel anxious. You want to see those icons come up. I'm suggesting that the addiction to artificial intelligence denigrates your intelligence. And I'll stop.
Good.
I will add one thing. Yes, this is all true. It will make us very lazy, and if AI is doing it for us, why should we go and do further research? But there are those of us who want to dig deeper. And so now that AI has given us some basics, we can take that, and then there's going to be those of us who want to tangibly touch books and just get that feel. And so I think I heard this on a podcast that they said ebooks were gonna kill all the bookstores. But recently bookstores are making a comeback because people love the authenticity of being able to go in, grab a book, sit, and now we're realizing that we need to unplug from AI. We need, because we stare at the computer at work all day. We stare at the computer when we're home, you know, unless we're cooking or doing something with our hands. We got technology in front of us, and the blue light is a problem, so now they shaded the glasses, so there's just layers and layers and layers of how it affects us. So I just wanted to add that there are those of us who will still want to go in deeper and dig further beyond what AI is showing us on the surface.
No, she was talking.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, to speak to that, a lot of times people say, oh, the library is going away. And I always let people know the 2 oldest professions in the world are librarianship and prostitution. Okay? So if Pornhub didn't do anything to prostitutes, and we see that, we have Figueroa, and I'll leave it at that. You know, Google has nothing on a human. And during the pandemic, when everything shut down, guess what stayed open? Libraries. And like what you were saying with bookstores, people come, and it may not even just be for the interaction with books, but they know that there's a human in here that they can interact with.
I'll add to that. There's no, I always tell people, they always ask me, there's no substitute for good writing. And to do good writing, you got to put in the work, right? There might be some shortcuts, there's no substitute for libraries. But I'll say this, having earned master's degrees, I spent a lot of time in libraries. I had to go to Long Beach, back and forth to the library, spend hours and hours. With AI, I don't have to make as many rounds. I do a lot of research, but that's what I do, the research. And so that it's helpful that I can do that where I am. So it is positive for me in that respect, but then again, it can only take you so far. Everything in libraries is not on AI yet. They haven't found a lot of stuff, so you still may have to go. But I do use it for research.
Okay.
I just want you to know that these books, we're giving away these books. We're gonna do a trivia later on, but I want you to know these books are yours. Just pick out the one you want and answer the question. You got it. Now let's continue.
We'll definitely get to this section of Ralph in a minute, but I want to just ask the authors here on stage is that where do you see your works, your own personal works with AI right now in about 10 to 15 years? What do you see? Do you see someone like Odie was saying before, the older works will probably be replaced by AI or rewritten through AI? Where do you see your works? Where do you see putting the group's anthology heading in 10 to 15 years?
I have no idea. I think I'm working on a pandemic
Anybody
all I
else?
can say.
I know
That's
it's,
it. No, no,
Not-
because I've got crazy
I don't
enough
know.
imagination without AI helping me.
right. Okay, Melody?
I'll be better known. I've had a very interesting kind of career, and once again, I owe to Dr. Burrow. And she was always explaining to me, it's not important to be famous, it's important to be very well, to be a great writer, be a good writer. I think personally, my work will reach a wider audience, probably after I'm dead. And one of the reasons somebody suggested they started calling me underground master was that I have so much material out there, but I'm not very well known. Well, that's the way it happens sometimes. I think it will become better known because the technology will, right now, we have 2 or 3 great fan clubs in Italy. Guy named Mezzaconetti is always talking, when you write the next book, so that'll happen.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is because, I'm going to give you some background. I used to be the executive director of the LA Black Book Expo. And I think everybody in the panel knows I was the executive director of this event that happened for about 7 years. There had a lot of authors, a lot of the local authors come and want to promote their works and also share the books and sell their books. And I think we have a great authors community here in LA. The people in the workshop, the making the workshop, can tell you, and they can show you this right now. But most of what's being said today, and I'm going to say this to another question, is that with so many authors out there, so many authors in our community, and people, even when I do workshops, actual workshop lectures here in the library years ago, there were a lot of people that would come to become authors. A lot of people want to know how to become an author. And now that AI is part of our community, let me ask you this question. Do you feel, and I think this would be an answer, I think everybody have the same answer. Do you feel that people who have not yet written that first book, that want to write that first book, when they see AI as a way out to get that first book out?
Heck, yeah. It would make it a lot easier.
So as an author,
Yeah.
someone who's been there doing the work, doing the research, how would you feel that someone took that easy route to the freeway and you're still struggling in traffic?
Well, I'm gonna say this. I feel like, again, it's here. And we know it's gonna happen, so we have to figure out the best way to utilize it for our advantage. And for me, my weakness is outlining. I've dumped my information into AI and, whoa, this is wonderful. I had to tweak it some things because it may have put a little extra or it didn't quite get something right. But now I have an outline and I don't have to worry about spending 3, 5 days, maybe several weeks trying to go back and fix that outline. It's done and I can just focus on the writing part. That's big for me, but I have to admit, I'm still fearful because when I put something in, it goes back to plagiarism. And granted, I'm not putting the outline out there, but I just don't want anything to come back and try to say, oh, but you use this, you don't get credit for it, because I put the information out there. So again, we have to figure out the best way to utilize it. We have to remain diligent with the changing laws behind it so that we know we're within the parameters of using AI so that it doesn't come back to bite us. When it's out there, once I've done my information and it created something for me, it's there. So I can tell it, I can say today, oh no, I didn't use AI. But is that gonna come back and bite me several years later? And so I think that's what authors have to look at when they say, oh, I'm gonna write this book, and they let AI do the writing for them. They may get away with it in the beginning, but it may come back and bite them later.
Okay, anyone else?
I had this conversation just this morning. A person called me up and said she's gonna write this book. And she looked at the subject matter and found there's not a lot of books. So what she did was plug in the AI and it gave her for the book, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, as long as you don't go any further than that. Okay, but I can see the
Yeah.
temptation. And, to go to your question about this anthology, it should live in cyberspace forever. Really, I mean, that's the benefit. Like Odie said, you communicate all around the world with this tool. Really, I mean, so there's a pros, and there's times about it. I'm gonna use it, and I'm just gonna do the best I can with it. Really,
Anybody else?
It's a question on the floor.
Yeah,
Young
go
lady.
ahead.
May I raise a question, please? Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. I'm really enjoying the conversation, and it's just very informative for me. I wanted to just say a few things about AI that I think is important for the group is that, first of all, it's always, like someone said, it's always been here. I remember we used to have to do mathematics, and this before they had a calculator. And you actually had to know what 12 times 12 was. You had to know all, you had to actually do it the long way.
Yes.
You couldn't just put it in there. And then, other things that you had mentioned. But I think the key in terms of for writing, it's the quality of the writing that's going to determine how deep AI is going to take a stronghold. In the 60s, when we were very prolific in our writing then, when you had Monty Evans, when you had Gwendolyn Brooks, when you had Toni Morrison, they were all writing from human experiences. And I don't think that artificial intelligence can do that. You see what I'm saying? You can't write a story like Alice Walker's talking about, that we have social parenting in the community, and when you knew it got dark, you had to get your butt home. Because what you doing out here? Ain't no more playing, you go home. Artificial intelligence can't write with the type of depth that an author who has experienced it, or who's struggling for freedom and justice and sharing and caring. Artificial intelligence won't be able to do that. So I think we need to demystify it and not make it seem like here comes another technology. I was reading an article, they said you don't have to be a sociologist to know that when they created AI, they weren't creating it for us, the masses. They were trying to make some money off of it. They're trying to eliminate some jobs. They're trying to make it seem as though you don't have a voice. And so I think the biggest thing that we can do in order to, and I'm not talking against technology. Of course, like I was telling one gentleman here, if I go to my doctor's office and a robot comes in a white coat and asks me, what brought me here today? I don't know. I think I may have to, I'm going to go home and cure myself. But I'm just thinking that technology has been very good to us in terms of making medical procedures easier and things like that. But at the same time, you can't look at it like it's just like a god. Because it used to be the time they said, you got to have a personal computer. If you don't have a personal computer, you're finished. But then you needed some data to put in that computer, or it wasn't even functional. So in terms of AI, if we just remember that our goal as African people, as third world people, is freedom, justice, equality, sharing, familyhood. And those are kind of like the areas that we focus in. I don't think AI can do anything to that. I don't think you can touch that because it's a black experience, it's a brown experience that no one can write on unless you've lived it.
What's your name?
I'm Malaika.
Malika? That day when you walk into the doctor's office, it's gonna come before while you still here.
Oh, well, that's when I'll turn around and say, let me do my own surgery, okay? I'm gonna look it up on the computer and go home and cut myself.
That's good. It's good that we're talking about AI, but it's good that we're talking about this. But really, the one issue that the WGA and other writer organizations have is that compensation. We had a group discussion about this not too long ago. And we want to talk about compensation a little bit because I want to know your thoughts after thinking about it for the 2 weeks we had that conversation. Is that, what are your thoughts about that for the author now, especially the AI starting to come in our space? Compensation for us, authors. You think it's something that will benefit us, or you think that AI is just going to take that away from us?
As I said earlier, we had a strike, 2 unions went totally out on strike for the reasons that you just talked about. Artificial intelligence has no sense of money, has no bills to pay. So you don't have to worry about this captive technology that you're using for your own benefit unless you are nice, a producer with a nice situation going on, you can use that technology to make your money. The person who's creating the material is very likely not to make any money because the creation of it will be attributed to artificial intelligence. So we could wind up, like a lot of writers realize, a lot of people couldn't pay their mortgage last year. They couldn't do the things they were ordinarily able to do because they weren't being paid any money while they weren't being paid very much money while they were on strike. And they realized they could make no money at all if AI could do. It's like going to the grocery store. We had this happen. And I always go to the checkout counter. This young lady said, no, you can go check it out yourself. I said, no. If I go over here, you're gonna lose your job. She said, no, I won't. We're taking care of that. That store downsized, she disappeared, and we went to another market, and she was back behind the counter as a cashier. And we talked about it, and she said, well, I didn't think about losing my job. If you got a piece of machine, if you have a machine that's gonna take your place, you're gonna lose your job. It's as simple as that. You lose your job.
Yeah, so,
So you got the machine preparing the hamburgers right now.
Well, you see it at McDonald's, you gotta order at the kiosk.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They just raised the wage for everybody, 15 cents, so. But anyone else has a thought about compensation now?
Well, you know, our history is filled with time people have stolen our stuff. I mean, we don't keep count, so it's just an ongoing problem. I mean, everything that we created, which is most of the things called art and culturally, right? Somebody else already takes it and run with it anyway. So it's something that we need to remain vigilant about and just try to control it as best we can. But it seems like it's like people are waiting for us to create something so they can steal it. I mean, so you got to just try to be on top of it. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the young lady back there.
Yes.
But to piggyback off of that thought that you just said, do you think that because other individuals who may not be as melanated, their pockets are now being touched, do you think that that's now why there's an issue with AI? Like if it was just our communities that were being impacted, do you think this would even be a conversation?
No.
No, no,
No.
no.
No. I think we all know the answer to that.
Just wanted to put it out
I
there.
know, but it's good, that's good, so.
Another hand right there.
Okay, yes.
I wanted to ask, based on your statement about compensation, I work in the technology industry, and I have reservations about using AI, but with respect to compensation, I think there's more opportunity now maybe because of some of the technology, for people to be able to self-publish. And so when you say compensation, then that way, all the money's coming to you.
That's true, yeah. That's true, everybody on the panel.
Oh, I just wanted, because you mentioned self-published, I just wanted to mention that we actually self-published our ebook on the library website for free. Again, AI at its best. But I definitely wanted to plug that. There are some restrictions. You can only do an ebook. So when you're looking at printing, you're moving out and finding print websites. You have to do, of course, your own marketing and such. Whereas when you have publishers, they can do that kind of stuff for you. But absolutely, self-publishing, I think it's the way to go today because, like you said, you can keep it. You can keep 100%. You put the money in where you need it, and you get your returns.
Okay, anyone else want to address that?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like to know the result of the strike. What was the outcome of it? The Writers Guild strike. What was the outcome?
Sophronia, I can't hear you.
What was the outcome of the strike?
The Writers Guild and the screenwriters achieved some better circumstances, but the matter hasn't been resolved yet. Because it's still, right now, as we speak, there's litigation about how acceptable AI-generated writing should be. It's just up in the air.
I mean, the agreement is, I think, ends in 2026 or 2025. So it's like, they've got an agreement, but they may be striking again in another 2 years because, things change.
I also heard that they were doing it, like they were revisiting it every 6 months.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that it didn't give AI the chance to get ahead and take over in the situation. I'm not following it completely.
Plus the Copyright Office is trying to determine how to address AI as far as copyright. But they started, I think, in October 2023, so there's no conclusions yet on how the Copyright Office is going to, deal with
The
AI.
only reason it was resolved up to the point that it has been resolved is that the usual suspects were losing so much money by having writers on strike, that they decided to cave a bit. But they didn't give up. And if they could possibly get rid of 5 writers who were costing them $50,000, let's say, they would quickly do it. It's a merciless, bloody, heartless business. We approach it from the artistic level. I want to write a wonderful story. They look at it in commercial terms. How much money can we make off of this? If I can make $100 million off of it and not pay you anything, I'll do it. Trust me, they'll do it.
Yeah, this is like the wild, wild west of capitalism. That's what we're talking about. And there are pretty much no restraints, really. I mean, when you look at the direction it's going right now, I mean, it's just an open period for people to make money almost whatever they want to do. Really, so that's, all you can do is best. If you can self-publish, more power to you. But even when you do that, like our anthology, like she mentioned, I'm sure AI is having a field day on it. The stuff that he talked about, I mean, it's grabbing all of that. I use a dictionary app, and it gives me the definition of the word, thesaurus, and all that kind of stuff. It also goes to some places in literature where the word is used. That's AI, right? It was like Shakespeare, wherever it's used. So Toni Morrison, right? It would show where she's using that word, and you could get some ideas from writing just by seeing that. That's AI.
But do you think by it doing that, because it tells you, oh, this is from Toni Morrison, and this is just the librarian in me, like, it's almost like reference, where maybe now a person's like, oh, I want to read the rest of her works.
Hopefully.
Possibly.
Hopefully, yeah, it may work that way, yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of threats that are taking place right now with AI. But I want to also ask the panel, do you see any other threats that, as far as being writers and authors, that AI presents to you, or just the writing community in general? Do you see in your art right now and in the future?
Do you?
I think that AI is definitely going to present some threats, especially as far as what Odie was mentioning about the screenwriters and also the Writers Guild. AI presents a big threat, and we got them, especially culturally. You see the genres that people are now getting involved in, especially in the publishing side, right? Like I said, I was the executive director of the Expo, and people would write about the same genre every single time. And they would, in fact, right, so if you're someone who happens to go into a writer's workshop at AC Bilbrew, wasn't satisfied with the presenter, and you want to do it yourself, you would go to it, use an AI program to write your own book in that same genre. And guess what? You probably get paid for it because you, as the author who took that shortcut, decided, I am going to publish this work in this genre, this urban lit novel, and guess what? You get paid for it. So that's something that I would see, because I have a sense that would happen in the community today, but I would just say that, like Ron, I think you probably suggested, people like authenticity, right? People like when you're an authentic writer. You can check out the different words and phrases and say, hey, this is an authentic work of art, this is an authentic book. But if you're writing in general topics, AI doesn't copy that. Yo?
Charles, I was gonna say, if we could establish perimeters for, artificial intelligence creativity, if we could say, well, we have to have quotas, we have to have limitations, otherwise you just simply can explode all over the place and gain control of, areas, creative areas. I know a couple of artists, really fine artists. I could take a monkey with a paintbrush and have him do whatever he, and you could say, well, okay, so-and-so did it. It has the right name on it, it has the right brand, so it can be sold for umpteen numbers of dollars. That's what AI can do. If you have limitations for it, you can only do so much. It can't overstep those barriers. There's a certain place where human beings have dominance and AI can have some presence, but you can't operate it that way because it's out of control already. It's been out of control since it started. Nobody knows where the thing goes.
Exactly, that's what Ron was saying earlier, it's a wild, wild west right now because AI is just so open and it's affecting so many genres.
There you go.
And you as a screenwriter too, you know like that.
Yeah.
I can just write the script about this show and all of a sudden AI copies that with the same kind of plot. And he's like, wait a minute, who's really the writer here? So yeah, it's a good idea.
And you can write a book and maybe use a fourth of it from AI and not give AI credit. So how do you stop me from doing that? How do you stop me? And I use the fourth of my book as AI.
Right.
What do you? And I'm not giving anybody credit but me. So what happens?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it.
This is still,
I don't know.
we're still in the beginning stages. Yes.
Okay, I'm concerned about future college students. There's a professor, Justin Gifford, University of Nevada and University of Colorado, well, this university, where is he? I don't know. Anyway, Justin told his class, if you do any work in my class with AI, you will be failed. Bottom line, you will be failed. All right, and I feel bad for when I was in college, I wrote other people's papers. And one lady was mad because she had a psychology degree and sociology degree, and she wanted to march in both classes. And I'm like, you know why she wrote her paper. And so, I blame myself. But, I can see her using AI, and she certainly should never graduate from college.
So I do have a question in that regard. Is there a way, because I remember when I started college in 2002, like what they would do, they would take your paper and they'd scan it and it would tell them how much of it was plagiarized, right? That was like AI's granddaddy, right? So, and I remember when they did that, all of us were shook because we're like, oh crap, because it was around the time that we first were learning Google, Facebook had just kind of, hit. So now, is there a way for a professor to know, like, did a student use AI? Because
Actually, there is.
okay.
And the way I know it, I don't know the full details, but my husband teaches at La Habra High School.
Okay.
And one of the professors, or one of the teachers there, had a student who did his whole paper in AI, didn't try to change anything. And I don't know how they knew it, because that's what I want to know. Like, well, how did they know? Because I wonder, relating it to his
previous
copy.
writings, because I know, like, my daughter, Michaela, graduates next month, right? And I know her school, like, they encourage them to use, like, Grammarly, things like that, to help them with their writing. Because me and her were talking about it back here. Some of these babies talk how they text. And I'm like, sure, what did you just say to me? But, when you're moving into, like, the college sphere, like, I tell her, I was like, I know you, and yeah, you'll be a great lawyer, but some of your friends, I wouldn't want them to be my doctor, because that's an AI degree. You don't know where my liver is, but, is there a way for us to make sure, because as a former teacher, I'm nervous, because I feel we're diluting their education, right? As a geek, I'm excited, because it's like, how do we ensure that they're getting actual work from kids?
Well, when I was in Long Beach in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the professor said they were using software to AI, I guess, to check on these papers. They were able to determine plagiarism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But the
AI,
thing is, AI is not necessarily plagiarizing
right.
the information, and so I understand your question, I just don't know the answer to
Well,
it.
but I'm wondering if AI can spot AI. You get
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Because like women, like we can clock if a woman has, like, if that's her hair, or if she got, you know, so is it a situation like that where you're like, that's a wig, you know? Like, so,
The technology has become so intelligent, it can create other AI intelligences. I just found out.
okay.
So we don't know really where it's going.
That's what it does.
They may have baby AIs out there.
So maybe the baby AI can figure out the uncle AI or something, but I don't know. I'm gonna ask her because she starts college in the fall, and I just wanna see how her English and history and psychology professors, 'cause that's where she's gonna be writing papers, like how they're gonna go through it, because she said her school, they didn't even have that component for her report. And a lot of the kiddos, they're getting up there, I was like, how are they gonna do the presentation if they didn't write the paper? And she was like, Mom, you can't act, I wanna know, cause I know you did the work. I wanna make sure they did, and if they didn't, they don't need to graduate.
I have a book with a Japanese psychologist who has become an AI psychologist. He made a job for himself. He brings in the technology and he analyzes it. He makes certain that it's well enough, that it's not acting like Hitler or somebody else. And he treats them and puts them back into the mainstream, so they become safe to deal with. When we wind up with a malignant AI intelligence, like we have existing right today,
Right.
we're in trouble because we don't have psychologists who can treat it.
Or do we have enough psychologists? who can-
Enough psychologists,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's morphing
They
faster.
will
than
not be
humans
treated
do.
with Band-Aids.
Yeah.
All right, so before we move on to, we've already done this already, but more questions and answers, I want to ask the panel, one final question to ask me as a moderator to you is that, where do you see AI, I think I've already asked this question, but what do you see about the influence of AI, just starting now, what do you see it in the future?
It's out of control. But, you know, there are people working to get it under control. Then the question is, who is that? Should anyone have control, really? But it's morphing so fast every day. I don't see how it's ever going to be under control, really. So who knows where this is going? I mean, I don't have a clue.
Yeah. Anyone else? How's it?
So they have waitresses in some restaurant, it was on, so I think LA Morning or whatever, so they have AI waitresses. Okay, wonderful. And I think it's in Japan, they have AI people to take care of the elderly. I just want to say AI people, AI robots to take care of the elderly.
In West Hollywood, they have a little AI robot that delivers like
That's what-
DoorDash.
Okay, there you go.
I almost hit him the other day.
Okay, anyone else? Any thoughts before we open up to the audience?
Okay, just one thing. Does anyone know about ghostwriters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I noticed a lot of books are hidden. You look at MSNBC, you see every person got a book. They appear on there, now they got a book, right? And some of them are written by ghostwriters. What is that? Was that AI or was that a person? What is that? You know, if you don't have the skills in English and you can't write a book, you can hire somebody to do it for you. Is that so much different than AI?
Well, I mean, it's affecting rap. We see that right now. Because, I mean, you have ghostwriters and you have someone who has an amazing stage presence, but you can tell, like, they can't battle rap because they're not coming up with it off the dome. So if you look at these writers, we see it all the time. Like, during the pandemic, a lot of people had time and a lot of people thought that they were authors. And we got a lot of hot trash. We did. But also you see a lot of folks who are influencers have money, so they have someone who can write it, and they're like, oh, I have a story to tell, even if it's not a good story. So it happens a lot, and it's unfortunate because you have people who are great writers, but if you don't have deep pockets, sometimes you don't get to see the light of day on a shelf.
Okay, good. All right, so what I'm gonna do, you've already done this already, but, any other questions you would like to ask the panel that you felt, any subject about the AI or anything we discussed today, you feel like you need to know, you can go right ahead and ask them right now. So, anyone has a question they want to ask the panel?
I have one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible that we are overestimating it? It's brand new. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's brand new, and it has limitations. Like I use it for illustrations, and I also create quizzes online. And at first, with the quizzes, it was great. All the answers were right. But now, over time, I have to check every single question I ask against Google to make sure that it doesn't give me the wrong answer and ruin my credibility. So how much of it is, as far as it being overestimated, are we allowing fear to grab us over it? Or do we have more control over it than we think? I know that was a lot, a mouthful, but if you can answer the question.
Zoe?
I think of it like, when you're lost, you go to your phone to give you directions, okay? That it's a good source, it can, but it also can direct you off the cliff. And so consequently, at some circumstances, like I do Duolingo Spanish, the English person or whoever is doing that English for Duolingo, they don't speak English, okay? It's all effed up, okay? But that's the way the program is served, so you don't pay for the program, you get what you pay for, okay? And so with AI, maybe if it's more advanced and you end up having to make a payment on it, it might be always perfect with the right answers. I question.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What would happen if we came up with a black AI? Specifically, an African American AI, not a black.
Samuel L. Jackson, the voice? I say that.
Yeah, but
I mean, what would be the distinguishing features of that particular kind of intelligence?
Maybe we could.
Culture.
Yeah,
It would be our
culture.
culture. It would be our history, our culture.
Okay.
Language.
And really, history is at the base of all of this. So if you were talking about a black AI, I'm sorry, I should have been acknowledged by the moderator first, but I'm just so passionate about this. That unless you have something to write about that is specific to you and your people, whether it was your history a long time ago, whether it was the Holocaust the African Holocaust of enslavement, whether it's segregation, whether it's the struggle in the 60s, if you don't have something specific to your story, then it's all mute. If you're going to write it's just like the difference between, and I go back to my reference here, abstract art versus art that makes you conscious, capable, and committed. Anybody can open up a paint can and spread some paint on a canvas. And that's, the artificial intelligence don't even have to define that. That's just, but if you're doing like a Charles White, and one hand's lifting up another, AI can't take away the experiences that you have. If you're just writing in abstract terms, AI got you. But if you have something to write about that's going to leave a legacy for your children, for your people, even your own story. Like, I forget which one of the sister said, she's writing about how life was in the 40s and the 50s. Nobody knows that, but someone who's lived it. They can talk about the World War II and it was over with, and the Japanese internment and stuff, but who's going to tell our story? And so that's where we have you look at AI and you say, okay, it's a tool, just like the computer's a tool. But demystify it. Don't make it seem like it's just coming and you're not ready.
I just wanted to say, please don't make a black AI. We give away too much of our stuff as it is.
Well said.
And who's gonna own it is not gonna be us. Who owns Tubi? Rupert Murdoch. He getting all our money.
Well, maybe we can do like a diet black AI. Because think about, like, if you Google something that deals with our health, it's not through a black lens, you know? Because they'll be like, oh, collard greens are so unhealthy. And it's like,
I know.
what? You smoking leafy greens.
Well, I know, they already do that with watermelon.
Yeah.
It's like, please.
Right, right. Maybe we could loan it out a little bit to help individuals with like health questions. Like for instance, I grew up in Kansas, population 0.5 black people. So as a kid, like black culture, unless I had cable, I didn't know. Like I had to wait on my cousins in Atlanta or DC to tell me like, did you hear about this group TLC? And I was like, no. You know, like I want love and care, but it wasn't that. You know, I had to wait. So I think if we have it, we kind of reach the masses that may not be with the masses. But I get what you're saying though.
Well, I get what you're saying too.
Because the wrong hands get it and it just gets more
Because we don't have
nasty.
control.
Right.
over it.
Right.
Anybody else with a question? Yes.
So about the younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha, when they're at school and they're assigned like a creative writing or an essay, and they go home and they go on ChatGPT or Character AI, and then why should these children care for the soul of their writing when they just have AI at their fingertips?
That's a good question. Why? You're right.
Well, I would venture that your writing, maybe today, if you're in high school, you need an A on your paper, doesn't mean shit. But 10 years later, or when you have children, part of all of that shouldn't be AI generated. They should be able to know your experiences. Like I work with an attorney whose mother was in Auschwitz, and as a child, and we're going through all kinds of temperament and personal situations, but she could not express it. The childhood had traumatized her so, and her daughter would say, "I wish she could write about it, okay, so that I know what mommy's going through." All right, and if you get used to expressing yourself for you, not through technology, you get to better know yourself. And you don't need to pay a psychiatrist $250 a month. Because, I remember when I was going through a divorce, and the psychiatrist said, family counselor said, "I wish all my patients understood what they were going through like you do. We'll set us another appointment next month." Okay? I'm like, no. I know what I need. I need to walk away and find another life, not have another appointment.
Yes.
So the more you write from your own experiences as opposed to using AI, it means something. As a 75-year-old, I can tell you that.
But you have to be careful not to lie to yourself.
But growing up, AI is like, if you're not really a writer, we used to use Cliff Notes, when you didn't read the whole book.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a helpmate. For those who don't really care about writing, as a writer, I want to read the whole book and the whole thing. But if you're like the average student, just trying to get that grade, you got to use AI and keep it moving.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen.
I would also add, there was a point in time when the schools stopped teaching handwriting. Now the schools are teaching handwriting again.
Yeah.
So that group who went through school during that time, they're not able to, a lot of them can't read handwriting. They certainly can't write it. Now it's coming back into place. So that's just a space now that they're lost in. So it can very well happen with AI because we don't know what the future holds for it. And so if you handicap yourself and say, "Yep, I'm just gonna tell AI to generate this for me all the time." I'm not saying don't use it, but I'm saying if you handicap yourself and don't even make the effort to do your own work and just continue, then you're gonna find yourself lost by the time. So as a child, you're getting through school, now you have a degree or a diploma, and you go to work. But everything that you put on that diploma, how you can write and how you can do it, they don't use it anymore because life evolved. But you're stuck because you didn't train yourself. You didn't do the work, you didn't put in the work. So it's very important that you at least make the effort, but at the same time recognize what your limits are. But you gotta try.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, how do you get to AI? Is it AI.com or something?
It's the CHP.
Chat GPT.
ChatGPT.
Google,
There are lots of programs, ChatGPT.
Yes, but it's chat.
Google,
Yeah.
Google.
If you Google AI, that'll do it. Because that's
No,
what
I'm
I'm
telling her, like, Google also uses it as well, if she uses social media, like,
Google,
yeah.
AI programs, we have a list of them. We have a list of them.
Keep in mind, that is your question.
Yeah, some of these features, yeah, you're right, they're not free, you have to pay for. I mean, there are some free, ChatGPT is, depending what version it is, it's free, but most of them you have to pay to use their services. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
There are two ways to get to artificial intelligence. You can you can access it free, but it's not really free because it needs a lot of privacy.
Yes.
And that may be what this young lady back here is saying. And then you can pay for an upgraded version with more, I guess, information and capabilities. And then you
But
can
then it's still not private.
exactly.
Well, you'll see it on apps where it's asking you, you know, to accept this or share this, or like, are you going to allow the app to follow you and do other things? Like, always make sure you choose no, because sometimes people wonder, how did my phone know that I like chocolate chip cookies at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because you chose yes one time, and it listens when your bed squeaks and you tiptoe out. So you just have to pay attention to kind of what you're doing.
To your question, are you talking about the high school level? What level are you talking about?
Like, yeah, like iPad kids and a little bit above that, because, I don't know if you've heard, because there's another thing, another AI website that I mentioned, it's called Character AI, and it's like a bunch of little
Potato and egg.
characters that you can talk to, and it can be anyone, it can be like, I don't know, Samuel Jackson, or a video game character, and you can talk to them like a person almost. And a lot of people look towards that because I feel like quarantine has really messed us up. So it's really hard to talk to a real person. So you just look over and like, hey, there's an AI I can talk to. That's just a lot easier, but it's really messed up.
So, what you were asking about, if you have to do a paper and the use of AI and do the paper. And now it made me think back to high school. I already mentioned how terrible my education was. Had I had that option in high school, I damn sure would have used it. No doubt about it, really. I mean, if I could get something to do it for me, I would have. I think it goes to your own perception of you and your own personal integrity. It's hard to say what you should do, and I know what I would do. But when I look back on it now, it's like that. It's a handicap, but then you never really learn anything. You picking up on the machine to do it for you, right? You kind of defeat the purpose of even going to school if you do that yourself. Really, really. But I could tell you guys got a hell of a choice to make here. You a hell of an environment. I don't know really how to answer the question. Really, at this point, it's a tough